Welcome to a very special event that we are hosting today on behalf of Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. So my name is Erin Pellegrin. I am the Director of Culinary Nutrition at Unite for Her. I am here with my lovely co-host, Aubrey Red, who is a Senior Nutrition Associate and Culinary Dietitian, also one of our dietitians on staff. And today we are partnering with Sandy Rollman Cancer Awareness Foundation, Ovarian Cancer Awareness Foundation, for a very special live virtual cooking class where we'll be whipping up some really delicious dishes. We'll be talking a little bit about their health benefits, how we can use versatile ingredients depending on what you have on hand, how they're so good to support health and wellness despite whatever treatment or side effects you may be experiencing. And honestly, we're just here to have a good time. So it's an hour of cooking, it's an hour of connecting and hanging out. We are so excited to have you here with us. So know that Aubrey will be monitoring the chat for those that are hopping on in Zoom. But as some of you may already see, we are streaming live on Facebook. So you are welcome to watch live, participate on Facebook, offer suggestions, offer questions. Robin from Sandy Rollman will be here with us, so she'll be sharing a little bit about how you can get connected with the organization. We're so thankful to have her here with us. So I'd like to start by just sharing a little bit about the work that we do at Unite for Her for those that may not know or may be interested in becoming one of our participants. So for those of you that don't know, Unite for Her, we are a nonprofit, national nonprofit, but based in the Westchester, Pennsylvania area. And our mission is to serve, support, heal, and empower those diagnosed with both breast and ovarian cancer. So we offer a variety of integrative services that are meant to support the person, right? So we work very closely with medical teams all across the country because we know how important it is to have our medical team by our side. But we also know how important it is to really take care of ourselves. It's something that we as a group were just talking a little bit about before we went live. So really so important to take care of ourselves. And that's where Unite for Her steps in. We work with wonderful partners, offer a variety of integrative services depending on what a person needs. One of which are partners and in a supportive way offering healthy, fresh food is our offering and our partnership with FarmBox. So FarmBox RX joined our Unite for Her partnership earlier this year, and they are providing us with so many delicious vegetables for our recipes today. So we're so thankful to have them. And their mission, they just work to help beat health inequities. They use their services. They're very forward thinking. They use technology to bring healthy food, education, break down those health barriers to better educate and get to communities all across the country, just as we do at Unite for Her. So we're so thankful to have them as a partner, providing us with the goodies for our ingredients. So we're so thankful to have them. Again, if you are interested, if you are not already a participant with Unite for Her, if you have an ovarian cancer diagnosis or have been diagnosed with recurrent ovarian cancer, we would be happy to have you assist with getting you registered and have you as part of our program. So you're welcome to message us in the Zoom or message us on Facebook. You can also email info@uniteforher.org and we'll get you all set up. So we're happy to be here. So a little bit about us. But again, September is Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, and we want to take this time to showcase our important partnerships and just, how building education and awareness around this diagnosis is crucial to moving treatments forward, to building connections among participants. And that's why we partner with organizations like Sandy Rollman. So I'd like to turn the spotlight over to CEO and founder Robin Cohen to share a little bit about the work that she does with Sandy Rollman and how also you can get involved with her organization. So Robin, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you so much for having us. We're thrilled to partner with Unite for Her for this fun event. To tell you a little bit about us, the Sandy Rollman Foundation was started over 20 years ago in memory of Sandy Rollman, who passed away from advanced ovarian cancer at the age of 33. I was her oncology nurse and started the organization with her sister to give to other women what Sandy ran out of, which was time. And we really built a network of connection and sisterhood amongst ovarian cancer survivors. We offer support to patients and caregivers. We have support programs, and we advocate on a federal level for ovarian cancer research funding and also raise funds for ovarian cancer research, because we do know if we're going to move the needle forward against this disease, we do need the research funding is critical. But the support and the connection and the care is so critical to any woman diagnosed with ovarian cancer along the whole treatment journey and beyond. So that's why it's so important for the work that we do and the work that Unite for Her does. And we're thrilled to partner with you today, and hopefully in the future for many events to come. So thank you so much for having us. And I'm going to throw it back to Erin.
Wonderful. Oh, Robin, thank you so much. Yeah, and I think you said it so beautifully, just how important it is to speak the voice, to raise awareness, to get out to Washington, to make moves, and how crucial it is to this community. So we're so happy to have you as a partner. So with that being said, I want to get started with our recipes. Before I dive in, I do want to give one quick thanks and a quick reminder. So first, Unite for Her as an organization offers a lot of different education offerings and events. And we'd like to give a big thanks to GSK, who is our supporting sponsor for this ovarian cancer cooking class today. So we are so thankful to them. In addition, one quick reminder, we always encourage in our cooking classes to ask questions, share ideas. So for those that are hopping on in Zoom, again, use that chat. Aubrey will be monitoring and popping in. Or for those that are watching live on Facebook, feel free to engage with us. We'll be monitoring that chat as well. So let's get started. Let's talk a little bit about food, because as we know, with any sort of cancer diagnosis, health diagnosis, food and healthful ingredients are so important. And so one of the things that we do is try to take the intimidation out of cooking and using different ingredients, and really empower you to dance around, to have a little fun in the kitchen. So today we will be doing just that with two different recipes. So the first thing that we'll be making, some of you may be familiar with a frittata, right? We may have made it. We're doing a grain frittata. And I love this because it's a great way to use leftovers, right? Sometimes we bulk make grains, whether it's rice or barley or farro. And if we don't use them, they might have ended in the trash can, right? We're always thinking of food waste. This is a great way to use it, trust me. And then we're also making a vegetarian stuffed sweet potato. So again, we're starting to get into these fall and winter vegetables. And this is a great way. You don't just have to roast it, but stuffing it, think Taco Tuesday, but totally elevated and incredibly nutrient dense. So those are our two dishes. The recipes will be up on our blog at uniteforher.org. So know that they are coming to you, and we definitely encourage you trying them on your own. So let's dive into our first recipe, which is the grain frittata with veggies. So again, we're highlighting those vegetables from Farm Box. We love them, seasonal, super high quality. We're going to be starting this on the stovetop. So I'll be using a cast iron pan. You can use any kind of pan that you want. You just want to make sure that it's oven safe, so that handle is safe to go in the oven. I have my oven preheated to 375. So you want to make sure that your oven is hot as well. So first thing we're going to be doing is just getting our base ready for our frittata. So our base is eggs, right? So here I already have cracked. I always encourage, if you can, try using something with a lip, because it's just a little bit easier for pouring, but whatever you want to use. I have 8 large eggs here. If you're using a bigger pan than this, know that you can go up in number, right? So I've got 8 eggs already cracked. And to this, I'm just going to add a little bit of water to it. You can leave this out. If you want to add a little bit of milk, you're welcome to. I like adding a little bit of water, and here's why. And as I do this, I'm going to whisk this up. So I like adding a little bit of water because as my eggs cook, and I do this even if I'm making an omelet or some scrambled eggs on the stovetop, because what happens when you're adding a little bit of water, as it cooks, it creates steam within the egg, right? And then the product that we're left with is this fluffy, light, really beautiful egg. So I always say add a little bit of water to it. Now, eggs are some of the healthiest animal protein out there, in that it is the only food in our food chain that has all 4 fat-soluble vitamins. So I always say, eat that yolk, make sure you throw veggies in with it, which we're absolutely doing. But in the yolk is where you'll find A, D, E, and K, all 4 fat-soluble vitamins. So there's no other food out there that can say that. So we have our eggs here. Once they're all fully whisked together, if I was going to be using this mixture right away, I would add my grain, but I'm going to hold off until I'm ready for this to go in the pan because I'll be doing a little bit of multitasking between recipes. But what I do have here is some leftover farro. So I made this earlier in the week. It's about a cup. I love incorporating this because it adds a little bit of oomph to the frittata, so it's a little bit more substantial. But with our different grains, we're also getting things like more fiber, some plant protein, more of those minerals, right? So this is a really wonderful way that you can incorporate something like a complex carbohydrate food. So I absolutely love this. So again, I'll be adding this once we get closer to this going in our pan, totally fine. You can use less farro if you want, or less grain. Maybe you want to use half a cup. Maybe you want to try something different. Rice would be fine. Again, wheat berries, barley. I kind of like these types of grains that have this pearl sort of texture to them, so you can really be creative. So with that being said, I'm going to set this aside. We'll come back to this in a moment. Now, the other thing that I'm going to just get started on is I'm going to hop over to our second recipe because I want to start roasting some vegetables. So as I mentioned, we're stuffing a sweet potato, which is so easy. I'm going to be doing it in my microwave, which is like, talk about a weeknight dinner. This is a perfect one. And one of the things I'll be doing is roasting some veggies. So again, I love seeing Brussels sprouts this time of year. Cruciferous veggie, super, super healthy. I have some prepped here. I also cut up some broccoli florets, okay? So I'll be roasting all of these, but I'll do a last little bit of prep for my Brussels sprouts just to show you how to get these started. So they're like little cabbage heads. So you want to cut off the very base and then we'll just remove the outer stem and you can cut them in half. Now, one thing to note about the broccoli, for this particular recipe, what I like to do is cut those florets into a little bit of smaller pieces because what I'm thinking of is when I take that bite of that stuffed sweet potato, I want to make sure there's not a big floret in it, right? So I did cut them down a little smaller in size, a little more conducive to like a fork or a spoon. So you just want to think about size, but you don't have to go crazy. In addition, do not throw out the stems of that broccoli. I know most of the time we just want the little trees, the little florets. But again, we're always thinking of food waste. And so what I did, which I will be incorporating into my frittata, is I took those stems and I gave them a good chop. It's like a small dice. And I'll be sauteing them with my onion. So I'll be coming back. So again, minimizing food waste. Let's use every part of the plant. Let's do it. So first thing we're gonna do is dress. This is super easy. I don't even dress my vegetables in a separate bowl. I had these in here for the demo, but usually as I'm preparing, I just throw it on my baking sheet. I will also be roasting on 375. So I'll be baking my frittata and roasting these on 375. Super quick. This is the way you can roast any kind of vegetable. A little bit of olive oil, and then we're going to add our seasoning, right? Super simple. A little bit of salt. If you have issues with lymphedema or any kind of swelling, or you are just monitoring your heart health, high blood pressure, you don't need the salt, right? You can leave it out. You can substitute it with something like finishing with a little bit of vinegar on here would give the impression of saltiness. But for those that are really mindful of their salt intake, you can totally leave this out. Let's lean into other spices for flavoring, right? So what I will be adding is some freshly cracked black pepper. And my favorite just dried herb seasoning mix. This is something that I found, it's salt-free at Trader Joe's. You can get it at most all grocery stores. The Mrs. Dash line is really great. That's salt-free, but this is all stuff that you can make at home with just some, simple spice blend recipes. And then you can save them in an airtight container. In fact, on our blog, we do have some really great spice blend recipes, and I always encourage It's way cheaper. It's much more convenient. It's a good way to use up your individual spices. So we're just getting this all mixed. Once everything is evenly coated, we'll lay it out. You want to make sure that everything is all laid out in a single row. We're going to pop it in our oven. And then I'll just kind of let this roast until it gets to the doneness that I want. Thank you, Aubrey. Great recipes on there in our blog. I'll kind of let these go until I'm ready to top some of these in my sweet potato. So into my oven they go. Typically, if you are roasting, you could have them in your oven for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, depending on the temperature. In addition, and while I'm talking, I'm going to be heating my pan a little bit. So I'm going to heat this up to medium heat. I'll be adding a little bit of olive oil. But while that warms, we know that sometimes, depending on when we're chatting with our ovarian community, your treatment regimen can include a lot of different things, one of which is surgery, the other of which obviously are different chemo treatments, all which can have an effect on your GI tract, your tolerance of some foods. You may have some side effects. So there is a way to incorporate healthful foods, but make them more easily digestible, right? So I want you to think about that as we're sort of moving through class. One of the ways that we can sort of ease digestion with some of these vegetables, even ones like those cruciferous veggies that we have in the oven, is cooking them, right? Cooking, in whatever method you prefer to use, softens that fiber that's in it, which makes it a little bit easier on the belly, a little bit easier on the digestion and some of those side effects that can happen. So anytime I'm chatting with our community, anytime Aubrey is connecting with our community, we're hearing that there's some GI upset as a result of any number of things. One of the things we always say is, all right, maybe raw or just kind of par cooked, that might be what feels good to you. That may not be what feels good to you right now. Maybe you want to try cooking it. Could be roasting. It could be sauteing it, right? Could be slicing it and maybe you're stir frying it. Could be throwing it in a soup or a stew, but just kind of softening that fiber. It can be a true benefit. With that being said, I'm going to add a little olive oil to this. With that being said, the other thing you want to think about also are portions, right? We know that sometimes you might learn trial and error that, oh my gosh, I know I can have a little bit of something. I might be okay with just a little bit of those vegetables, but if I have a big serving, I'm really going to be in trouble. So know that, through these experiences, there is trial and error, a little bit of learning, but a lot of times there is a way that we can get in some health and nutrition, and hopefully you learn that today. So my pan is hot, my oil is hot. First thing I'm adding are some onions. Why I love this recipe is because the ingredients that we're using are so versatile, right? So I was super excited to get my farm box yesterday because I was like, what's in it? What am I going to use today? What's going to go in my frittata? Because literally anything that you can use, anything that's in your crisper drawer, you can throw it in the pan with your eggs, right? So I love the versatility of this. So if you are a person and you know that onions are like not your thing and they don't sit well, you can leave them out, right? You can pick other veggies. You can lean into what you know works with you. I'm going to be adding a little bit of chopped up kale to my frittata at the end, right before I add my eggs. But we know that kale doesn't always sit well with everyone. You can use another green. You can use spinach. You can use arugula. You can leave it out altogether. So again, so much versatility. It's why I love this recipe. So I'm going to let that saute. I'm also going to add those broccoli stems that I cut up really, really well. You don't have to add all of them. You could just sprinkle a little bit in there. So I'll let these cook down because, the stems of these are a little bit firmer. So I'm going to give them a little bit more time before I get into my next ingredients. And I always like to check in. Aubrey, do we have any questions coming through?
Yeah,
either from Facebook? Excellent. Let's hear it.
I was going to ask, with the frittata and the veggies you're incorporating, is there a benefit to trying to incorporate different veggies of different colors? What is that like for our nutrition?
Absolutely. So when we think about not only our fruits and vegetables, but really all of our plant foods, variety really is key. And I'm really glad you brought that up. My next thing that I'll be prepping as I chat is a pepper that I got in my box. So I'll be cutting that up. So yes, it's all about variety, right? Because variety ensures that you get a little nutrients from here, you get a little bit from there. The different colors of our produce make a difference. Of course, we want you to like what you're making visually. We want it to look good, but those different colors come from different phytonutrients, which means you've got all these beautiful different antioxidants, vitamins, minerals that are all helping to promote wellness, fight inflammation, right? Support your microbiome, your healthy GI tract. So variety really is key. And yes, using color as an indicator is a wonderful way to ensure that you're getting a lot of different variety. I love that question.
Cook up all these veggies before you put them in the frittata, or will you leave some raw?
No, so that's a great question. So I am going to cook all of them, some more than others. So as you see, my onion and the broccoli stems went in first for a little bit. I'm going to let them go because I want them to sweat out. I want them to cook a little bit more. I'll add my pepper momentarily. And then I'm also going to be cutting up some tomato and the kale, which I will add at the very end. All right. So the degree at which you cook your vegetables, again, can vary. You might want some that are cooked a little bit more, right? We don't want something is a little bit tougher of a consistency, and that's okay. These are also things that you can cut up, you can cook ahead of time, right? So if you do have leftover roasted vegetables from the night before, okay, let's throw them in the pan with our eggs, right? So you can pre-cook all of this stuff and then do that little step of meal prep and then throw it together during the week. So there's a lot of ways that you can work ahead of time. I love that. All right, so my green pepper, I'll add this in. We'll let that cook. And I am going to season my vegetables as I go. So again, a little bit of salt and just a little bit of black pepper. So this is where our flavor is really going to come from the veggies in the pan. And I do love this also because frittatas do cook up very, very quickly. So this will take, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We'll talk about how you know when it's done, but they're just so quick to throw together. I love it. All right, so we'll let them cook. And then I'm also going to cut up my tomatoes. So I got also in my farm box yesterday, I got these beautiful, oh my gosh, Roma tomatoes. And I refuse to let go of tomato season. I know that tomorrow is the first day of fall, but summer tomatoes are like the best. And for those that may not already know, so one of the questions I should say we get is there one best method of cooking, right? Should I have everything raw? What about boiling? Is it okay to juice, right? Like, is there one magic method? And similar to what we were saying earlier in terms of the different nutrients, there's no one perfect method of cooking. We do want you to have veggies, if possible, in lots of different ways. And that's because things like lycopene in our tomatoes, lycopene is more bioavailable. It is absorbed better by the body when it is cooked, right? It doesn't mean that you should never have a raw tomato. I mean, we just came off of like tomato sandwich season. But if we're going to maximize all of that lycopene, we want to cook our veggies sometimes. So again, just kind of throwing that in the mix is really important.
Is there a number of servings of vegetables we should try to shoot for in a day? Because I know we're talking about, it's so important to get in the veggies. What's the goal?
That's a great question. So, sometimes I'm hesitant to give like an overall goal because I know that sometimes we're just struggling to get in fruits or vegetables. Again, especially if you are dealing with side effects from treatment or post-surgery. If I were to give you a number, it can be a little bit frustrating, right? And we want to just really empower you with food and to get in the kitchen. So I will give you that number, but I always say, listen, that's not the be all end all. It could be a long-term goal to think of, but we like working in small increments at Unite for Her. So You know, fruits and veggies, if you can aim for 5 servings a day, for me, I think that that is a good recommendation. But again, it doesn't have to be that way. Sometimes, Aubrey, you may do the same thing. Like sometimes I struggle to get in servings of fruits and veggies, and I have to really be mindful because we're busy or we're coming from here or there. Sometimes I just forget and it's not convenient to me, right? So, you know, I like setting the goals of if you're working to increase the amount of fruits and vegetables that you're getting in, start with 1 additional serving a day. That's it, right? Don't try to shoot for the stars and say, yes, I'm going to go from 1 to 5, but maybe we can get in 2 servings consistently every day, right? So just small little wins, I think, is something to keep us all motivated. All right. My tomatoes will go in, and I will just cook them just gently and let them heat through. And then at the very end, I'll be adding my kale, which I will bring out in just a moment because I know some of us have a love-hate relationship with kale. All right. Any other questions right now, Aubrey?
Nothing right now. We're all good.
Okay, wonderful. So also in my farm box, I got beautiful kale, which I love. And I know that not all of us are kale lovers, right? It's very much a love-hate relationship. Sometimes it can be a little bit bitter. One of the ways that I do like to enjoy it is just by cutting it down. And if you saw our CSA video yesterday, we talked a little bit about this, right? By just sort of really chopping it into smaller pieces and incorporating it either with other greens or cabbage or other veggies is a way that you can incorporate it without sometimes that bitter flavor sort of taking over. And that's what I like to do in something like a frittata. So I just cleaned my kale leaves really well, and I just chopped them. And they're light and they're beautiful. They're small pieces. They're going to blend in with everything, which we love. So I'm going to just add a little bit of this. And as with any sort of lettuce, you know, when you cook it, you know, you go from here to here. So we know that it's going to cook down, which is fine. But again, as always, like if kale doesn't sit well in your belly or you just really don't like it, you can either substitute it with another green or leave it out altogether. Maybe we're leaning into some other vegetables that we know do sit well with you. So again, so much versatility. I'll give this a stir. We'll let this cook down a little bit. And then we're going to get our eggs all prepped and ready to go. So super, super simple. I love this. And again, for those that hopped on a little bit late, or for those that hopped on after we talked about the menu on Facebook, we are making a grain frittata with veggies from our friends at Farm Box. So we love that. So here is our egg mixture. So early on, I have 8 large eggs, a little bit of water to create that steam and a really beautiful texture. And then I'm adding my grain. So I have some pre-cooked farro here. I'm going to get rid of my whisk. I don't need that anymore. And I'll just be adding this in. And I'm going to add most of it, but not all of it. And then all I'm using is a spatula just to make sure that this gets really well mixed. And I promise, think of this sort of like of adding a potato to your frittata, right? You might be looking at this and you're like, where did you get this recipe from? I promise it's like adding a potato to your eggs. It blends really lovely, and then it adds a little bit of sustenance to it. So once that's all mixed, here's what we're going to do. I'm taking my eggs, I'm pouring it right in the pan. Another reason why I love this. I'm also going first, I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit, just to low, because I'm not trying to cook this so much. That's what the oven is for. All right, so we'll pour this all over. And again, I've been seasoning my veggies as I've cooked them, so I haven't added anything to my eggs. So I'm really relying. So we'll let this smooth out a little bit. I'll let it sit on the stovetop 30 seconds at most. We'll turn the heat off, and then into the oven it goes. Once I start to see sort of the edges of my frittata, I can see that they're starting to cook, which is what we want. We'll come off of heat. And another thing that I'm sure I will reiterate multiple times is, especially when you are taking this out of the oven, Please make sure that you have your oven mitts nearby because food safety is of the utmost importance. And if your handle is hot, we don't want you to burn. So before it goes in the oven, let me show you what we're dealing with here. Can you see that? Looks gorgeous.
Looks
Color,
delicious.
texture, it's beautiful. So we're going to let this go for, 15 minutes or so, right on top of or right underneath my roasted veggies. Let's grab these and we'll take a look. We'll show you what these look like so far. Great, we're getting there, right? It's pretty darn good. I'm going to give these a little zhuzh and we'll let them keep roasting. Super, super simple. So again, some of you might like them a little bit raw. Some of you might say, no, let them keep going. It's totally super versatile. So these will go back in 375 and we're off and running. Okay. So that is recipe number 1. Recipe number 2, also super simple, but any questions while I get our sweet potato prepped, Aubrey? Any questions, comments, anything from attendees?
Yeah. So wondering about the vegetables, how do you check for doneness? I know you said, you could like them a little bit more raw or a little bit more cooked. Generally, what's your rule of thumb for checking, that they're kind of cooked through?
Oh, that's a great question. So if you're talking about veggies on the stovetop, you can sort of eyeball it. You can tell if they get a little bit softer. The color may dull a little bit. You can grab a fork and just test the doneness as you poke it. So if it feels a little bit firmer and you want it to keep going, you can do that as well. You can also do the same thing with our vegetables in the oven, right? The more I do it, I can kind of eyeball. Are they wilting a little bit? Do they look a little bit more, or do they share their appearance looks a little bit more raw, right? Like, oh, it looks a little bit similar to when I first put them on the baking sheet. Or grab your fork and see how easily your fork goes through it, and that will tell you the texture of your vegetable. And does it go through? Is it hard to go through? It's a little bit firmer, okay? Or does it move through quite easily? In which case, it could be pretty well done. So just kind of varies, but the fork is really simple tool to check doneness. And then the more you do it, just kind of eyeballing it. So, but again, with our frittata, that doneness can really vary from person to person. And even with our veggies in the oven, there is no true right or wrong. It's really personal preference. I love that question. Okay. And so let's jump on to our other recipe real quick before we hop back to any comments or questions. So we're going to make a stuffed sweet potato, which I love. So think Taco Tuesday, but way better and way more nutrient dense and also really fun. The kids will love this. So, we love roasting potatoes in the oven. You can absolutely roast this for an hour in the oven if you want. But when it's a Wednesday and kids are in school and we've got doctor's appointments and we're running from here to there, we want something quick, right? So you can very quickly cook your sweet potatoes in the microwave. Super simple, something that's about this size. I got 2 of them in my box yesterday, 5 minutes. That's it, 5 minutes, super easy. So first thing I did, I cleaned and scrubbed the outside of my sweet potato. I'm leaving the skin on, okay? If there's any marks or any spots that look a little suspect, just know that you can trim those off. But aside from that, you just wanna make sure you're giving it a really good clean. Yeah, the next thing that I'm doing, and Aubrey, I'm so glad I remembered, you want to make sure that you pierce it, right? I was telling Aubrey and Robin before, I'm like, oh, I want to make sure I don't forget to pierce it, right? Piercing it allows the steam to come out so that we know that it won't explode in your microwave and that it will cook through. So just with a normal fork, you just want to just puncture some holes. You don't need a ton, but you want to make sure that you're covering the entire surface of the sweet potato, or any potato for that matter. So you could follow these same steps with a russet, a Yukon Gold, whatever you're using. And then what I did do is I seasoned the outside a little bit. So I added a little bit of olive oil that I just kind of sprayed and rubbed all over. And then I seasoned with a little bit of salt, pepper. Totally optional. You can use, again, your favorite seasoning blend. If you'd like to use something else, I know that I also love rosemary with my potatoes, so I could even chop some up and add a little bit of that too. But again, totally your prerogative. So into my microwave on high, 5 minutes. That's it. Super easy. And I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. So we'll let that go. I did make one ahead of time, and I promise to test it. All you have to do is make sure your fork goes in really, really easily. And then when you cut it open, it's totally cooked, and then we'll just kind of mash it and fill it, all right? So if your sweet potato is a little bit larger and your fork is not piercing it with as much ease, just microwave in 1 minute increments until you get to that really easy texture, and then you can ensure that it's done. So I know sometimes this time of year in my farm box, we're getting sweet potatoes that are huge. It's like the size of a football, right? We love that. It might take a little bit more time, but it's all good. We love sweet potatoes because they're incredibly high in vitamin A, beta carotene, that beautiful orange color. So such an elevation in terms of nutrition. I will say I am pro potato overall. We get asked a lot of questions. Are potatoes good? They're starchy. Should I have them? Should I not have them? They're a fabulous source of potassium. So really, really nutrient dense, also a great source of fiber, great source of complex carbohydrate. So they are a really, really healthy food to incorporate, even if you don't have a sweet potato available. So you can absolutely feel good about having sweet potatoes. So with that being said, I will let that microwave. I'll take it out and we'll do the test together. And then we'll get to our stuffing. So again, we're going to be cooking. We're going a couple different methods of preparation for our veggies. I'm going to be sauteing some. We've got, and I'll pull these ingredients over. We've got our other veggies in the oven. And then we're going to have some things that are raw. So I know, because when I was running through our recipe before, Aubrey had mentioned also that she loves to make stuffed sweet potatoes as well. Aubrey, do you want to share a little bit about how you like to make it home, or any ways that you might change this up, or what you like to throw in your stuffed sweet potato? Because again, I think sometimes we don't always think about the versatility of it. And while you do that, I'm going to be dicing up a cucumber I got yesterday.
Yeah, I am a big proponent of stuffed sweet potatoes. I love them. Like Erin said, they're so nutrient dense, and it's such a good source of carbohydrates, which give our body energy, and fiber, whether you choose to have the skin or not on the outside. So I'd love to do the stuffed sweet potatoes. We do a couple different varieties. My favorite probably variety is like a Greek stuffed sweet potato. So we'll stuff it with some tomatoes, some cucumbers. I see Erin, she's cutting up some now, a little bit of feta cheese and olive oil and a balsamic vinegar, and maybe even some chickpeas for a little added fiber and protein. So that's one of the ways that we love to enjoy it. Really just tossing in all of those seasonal veggies that we kind of have available around the house. It's one of those things that's really versatile, and it's great to just toss in whatever and then use different spice blends to kind of make it your own. So you could make it completely different flavored with a different variety of spices. So it's really a good way to work with it.
Yeah. And I love when you mentioned that, we're using we'll be topping with some cold ingredients, but most of our ingredients will be warm, right? But you're talking about using cucumber and tomatoes and things that are fresh and cold. So I like that you can enjoy this. It doesn't always have to be a hot dish, that we can really enjoy this even in the warm spring and summer months as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. Good. All right. So I have my other pan here, heating on medium, adding some olive oil. First thing is always, I got the other half of my onion that I got in my farm box. So this will be going on. Again, I love these dishes because they're really versatile, right? So if you don't want an onion, you don't have to use an onion. You could use a shallot instead. You can use scallions or leeks instead. Something that has less of a strong onion flavor. Different types of onions. I'm using a yellow onion, but a red onion would be great as well. So really, really versatile. So we'll let this cook down a little bit. And I'm going to add my zucchini in there as well. So my zucchini that I got yesterday was really large, as you saw, which I love. Turn that up a little bit. So we'll let this cook. And again, similar to the question that we had in the chat, I'll also be seasoning that. Similar to the question we had in the chat, doneness is really a personal preference. So if you really want to cook down, even taking some time to caramelize your onions and use that slow and low would be absolutely a wonderful pairing, that whole flavor profile with your sweet potato. So you can really cook them to your heart's delight. All right, so I'm going to saute that, turn that up a little bit, and some black pepper. Again, I really like to showcase the flavor of the vegetables that come through. Again, if you have your favorite seasoning blend that you'd like to add, or you want to give it a little flair, like Aubrey said, and use different types of blends, you know, again, so much versatility. So we love this. Okay. A nice little sizzle. So we'll let these cook. Perfect. And then from here, I'm going to finish my toppings. Oh, actually, before I get to my tomato, let's check our sweet potato. Let's do the test. Let's see how we're doing. All right, let's take it out. So again, be careful. Your plate might be hot. Your sweet potato might be hot. Oh yeah, I can already tell it's very, very tender. So let's see. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Right? Perfect. So easy. Oh my gosh, perfect. So this is what we're saying, like weeknight. Absolutely. So I am going to cut this open just to let it cool down a little bit. Oh my gosh. And then we'll use the fork and we'll fluff it and we will fill it. Before I go back to my tomatoes, I'm also going to do a quick check on my frittata just to kind of see where we are with things and my veggies. All right, these are great. All right, perfect. So my vegetables, my roasted veggies are done. So I'll show you what these look like. So they have a nice little brown crisp to them. They are nice and tender. Yeah, they look great. And you can tell my broccoli florets, they are, you know, they're all a little bit on the smaller side. So again, they're a perfect little topping. So our size of all of our ingredients will be pretty similar to what we want to go to. So I'm just going to set these aside and then we'll come back to them when we're ready to assemble. Great, so we'll let that go. And then my frittata, right? So we're getting there, almost done. What you want to look for, how you know that it's finished, is if you eyeball it, and if it still looks like it's not firm in the center, if you give it a little zhuzh and you see some movement, you want it to keep cooking, okay? So you want to make sure, sometimes it'll also get a little bit of a balloon in the center, you know that it's finished. So super easy, love that. All right, let's make our toppings. So I like fresh tomatoes. I'm gonna turn that down a little bit. That looks great. Okay, so let's cut our tomatoes. Again, love this. And the other toppings that I'll be assembling and working through, I've got some black beans. So you heard Aubrey mention she likes to add chickpeas as a good source of protein. I'm going to be using some black beans. Lentils would also be a really wonderful addition. So we like to say, make sure that with all your meals and snacks, you have a source of protein with it, right? Having all of those macronutrients is really important so that you're getting all the nutrition that you need, especially if you are recovering from surgery, having radiation, going through chemo, your protein needs are higher. So we want to make sure that you are incorporating a protein food in all of your meals and snacks. So certainly it could be something like the frittata, but it could also be adding things like our black beans or chickpeas or lentils, right, as an added boost. So you want to make sure that you're incorporating it. So I've got some tomatoes here. Again, I got Roma tomatoes in my box yesterday, but cherry tomatoes would be great, hack them. Grape tomatoes would be fabulous. If you didn't have tomatoes, going back to that question we had early on about the variety of our foods, different colors, maybe you're finding something else that's red, like a red bell pepper, right? That would be wonderful. So there's lots of ways that you can change this up. So I love that. We'll give this a stir. Love that. I also talked about not only adding protein, but adding healthy fat, right? All of our macronutrients are really, really important, and we want to make sure that there are sources in all of our meals and snacks. Avocado is a wonderful, oh my gosh, I could not have planned that any perfect, right? I swear I didn't, farm box, thank you, avocado, love it. great source of healthy fat. So I will be cutting this up. And remember, like in our frittata, in our egg yolks, all those fat soluble vitamins, remember, we need healthy fat in our diet to assist with absorption in our body. So you want to make sure healthy fats are a big part of it. I am just cutting this up. This is also one of those tasks that I know sometimes we struggle with neuropathy and sort of manipulating, either holding a knife, things that are really firm cutting through. So if there's someone in your house that can assist with it, a lot of these vegetables we can get pre-cut or pre-sliced or pre-prepped ahead of time if you are struggling either with energy or fatigue, or again, just having some weakness or neuropathy in your hands. So some of those convenience foods that you can get at the store are totally worth it because it just takes the stress off of you, right? As Aubrey and myself and our other dietitians, Michelle and Christina, you know, we're always saying we don't want food to be a point of stress for you. We want to empower you with it. So, and that's one of those points that sometimes, you know, I'm just going to buy, you know, the pre-cut tomatoes and the pre-cut zucchini and the butternut squash, right? I was at the store this morning picking up the last few things, and it's like, that can be really hard to cut through. So let's pay for some of those convenience foods. We totally get it. Or let's get those teenage kids. Let's teach them how to use some knife skills, right? It's a great way to get them in the kitchen and teach them about different ingredients as well. So I love getting the kids in the kitchen early. Okay. I'm actually going to keep cooking this on low. Love that. All right, so we have our avocado, we have our black beans, we have our tomato. I'm also going to be adding a little dollop of sour cream at the end of stuffing my sweet potato. You can, again, if you are dairy free or if dairy doesn't sit well with you, you can leave this out altogether. There are dairy free alternatives. You can use a plain Greek yogurt, especially one that has live active culture. So you're getting that probiotic boost as well. So that's a wonderful addition. But no, again, this is totally optional. Or Aubrey, I think you mentioned you like a little bit of feta or a little bit of goat cheese crumble. So you can do something like that that has a really lovely flavor that complements everything. So we love that. All right, let's check our frittata. And I think that may be done. And then we'll assemble our sweet potato. And then I will do the really hard job of tasting it. But I mean, like, somebody has to do it, right? So I guess I will do it. So let's check one more time. Aubrey, any other questions from those that are watching either on Facebook or those that are on Zoom?
Yeah, a good question is in regards to, you know, the vegetables. And I know you were talking about ease of, you know, cutting. Oh, looks delicious.
Perfect. So I don't mean to interrupt real quick, right? We do the zhuzh test. I call it the zhuzh test. No movement in the center, totally done. Again, keep those oven mitts nearby. I'm going to let this cool before I cut into it a little bit. And then we'll come back to it. But go ahead. What was that question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. What about frozen vegetables in regards to like ease and convenience? Are those still a good source of our nutrients?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. So glad you brought it up. So while I am answering that, I am going to assemble my sweet potato. So we'll work as we go. Yes, absolutely. So actually, I'm going to take I did pre-prep one, but we'll do the one I made today. So yes, I love frozen. So the quality of the nutrients that are in our frozen fruit and vegetables is superior, because what happens is producers will pick those fruits and veggies at their peak of ripeness, right? And they go through the blanching, and that quick cook. So they will cook something for a minute or two in hot water, and then they will shock it in an ice bath. And what that does is it maintains the color and the texture of that frozen vegetable. It also maintains the nutrients that are in it. And then they package away and they freeze it. So absolutely, number one, you can feel really good about the nutrients that are in your frozen fruits and veggies. So stock up when there's a sale. Speaking of, it's really great on the food budget, right? So we know, and we hear, unfortunately, every day when we chat with our Unite for Her community, you know, the cost of cancer care and on top of the food cost in and of itself, right? We've all felt that in our wallets, the rising food cost. So leveraging things like frozen veggies in different ways is wonderful on the wallet. If it's just you at home, or if you are empty nesters, or just you and one other person, right? We are, again, always thinking of food waste. Well, with frozen, you just use whatever you need, you wrap it back up, it goes right in the freezer. So there are so many benefits. And for any of these recipes, if you just wanted to reheat frozen veggies, quick saute some in a pan, you could do all of that and still create a really nutrient dense, a really delicious dish. So that's a great question. Okay. Stuffing my sweet potato. Love it. So this is where like the taco seasoning comes into play. And Aubrey, I don't know how you like to do it. Do you like make a little cavity? I've done it multiple ways. Like some of my family members will scoop a little bit of this out to make room, but I'm like, I'm not letting go of all of the deliciousness in the center. So how do you like to stuff yours when you guys are at home?
Yeah, sometimes we do it that way, kind of like pushing it down a little bit to make the space. Sometimes we'll just, completely put it in a bowl, mash it all up together so that it's just like one big thing, or put it in a
Love
bowl
it.
and just throw all the toppings in so that it's just simple, not too much mess. But I don't think you can go wrong whichever way, even if you just scoop a little bit out and eat it ahead of time.
Yep. Agreed. And I love the idea that you gave about just making that in a bowl. I am going to put that on top of there so I don't forget. But yeah, just kind of throwing everything in a bowl and like mashing it all together. And then you have your own little like sweet potato bowl that you're making, right? Even again, with some of that leftover farro that I used in the frittata, kind of mix it all together. I know sometimes people don't always like mixing and like their food touching or ingredients, or they're just a little bit more particular. I was the type of kid that put 3 different cereals in my cereal bowl when I was growing up, because I just throw everything together. And this is one of those dishes that you can just like throw everything together and it's all delicious. So be as creative as you want. So I just added onions, zucchini. I've got my roasted veggies. Now let's add a little bit of fresh. So some fresh tomatoes to complement. Again, still hanging on to those summer tomatoes. Oops. And some healthy fat. So I'll just add a little bit of avocado. You could also do guacamole. So know that, you can get really good store-bought guacamole. It's more convenient. Again, sometimes we can't always find like good ripe avocado, especially off season. So if you want to do a little dollop of guacamole, that would be good. Definitely beans, because a lovely added benefit. This is going to be a hearty meal. I love this. And then a little dollop of sour cream. Now, the only other thing that you could add, oops, that's not sour cream. The only other thing that you could add at the end would be like some of your favorite herbs, right? So if you wanted to add a little bit of like chopped cilantro, I always like to call out the benefit of adding our fresh and dried herbs. So we know when you compare our herbs ounce per ounce to every other food available in the food chain, guess what? There's more antioxidants found in your herbs and spices than any other food out there. So if I were to chop some cilantro or add some scallions or add some parsley or basil, or those dried herbs that I used when I roasted my veggies, you can feel good that they're not only adding flavor, but you are getting that little dose of nutrition as well. So do not overlook all of those herbs that you grew in your pots and on your deck or in your garden. Don't overlook them, because there's so much more than just flavor. So with that being said, let me show you. Oh my gosh. I wish, this is where smell-o-vision comes into play. Here's my stuffed sweet potato. Beautiful, right? Like visually, there's a little bit of salt around just from when I cooked the sweet potato. But again, this is like a one pot thing, right? So we have different colors. I have the beautiful orange from the sweet potato, some black from the beans. We've got green, we've got red, we've got white. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And again, I will do the really hard job of testing it. And one of the reasons why I cleaned the skin really, really well is because I knew I wanted to eat the skin of my sweet potato. That's where a lot of the fiber and nutrients are. If you just want to kind of scoop it out, again, like maybe something really fibrous isn't sitting well in your belly right now. We totally understand that. And then you can just kind of scoop things out and sort of eat it a little bit like that. So I am going to take a bite and give a real true opinion. Delicious. Wow. Every time it's, one of those dishes that you make and every time you're like, yes, it is as good as I remember. That is absolutely delicious. Everything is super tender. And again, even if you wanted to cook all of these ahead of time and then assemble your ingredients when you're ready, there's definitely some meal prep that can happen. So you will love that. You will love that. Yes. Okay. And then let's serve our frittata and then we will wrap up our recipes for today. So again, one little trick, just as a reminder, anytime I know that I have a hot pan, I put my oven mitt on top of it because I'm the type that will forget and grab the handle. And that's definitely what we don't want. So let me grab a plate and I will do my very best to cut a little slice of this. So it will have a little firmer texture because of those great grains that are in it. It's like pie, right? The first slice is the hardest to get out, but let's see. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Can you see that?
Wow.
Beautiful, right? Oh my gosh. All right. So this will go back and we'll give this a little taste. So super quick, really easy to throw together. You don't just have to have something like a frittata for breakfast, right? You can pair this with having a side salad or a soup. We're getting into soup and stew season. So know that you can pair this with something else to make this a really lovely, savory entree. The other thing, while I'm tasting a little bit, the other thing that you can do is make this in a muffin pan and make little individual frittatas, right? So talk about great for reheating, for taking in your lunch, for a quick and easy breakfast. It'll allow you to get some veggies in starting your day. So that's always an option as well. Follow the same steps. Just add your ingredients, divide them up in your muffin pan, and then top it with that egg mixture. And you bake it, same degrees, may take a little longer in the oven, but again, you're just kind of looking for that firmness. And then you've got leftovers for the whole week. So that's a really easy breakfast. So you see those veggies. I see my grains here. Oh my gosh, perfect. So delicious. And because we seasoned the veggies, there's so much flavor that comes through, right? A little goes a long way. I absolutely love that. So with that, we've got our two delicious dishes. We are so thankful you joined us for this very special Ovarian Cancer Awareness Cooking event. We are so happy to have you with us and the Sandy Rollman Cancer Awareness Foundation. I should say the Sandy Rollman Ovarian Cancer Foundation. I want to make sure I get that correct because they do such important work, right? And I want to make sure that that if you have not already connected with Robin and her team, that you do that because the awareness, the education, the movement that they are making for the ovarian community is important. It is necessary. Unite for Her is here for it. We are happy that you're here for it. Robin, we're so glad you and your team are here for it. And we are just so thankful for you. So anything else, Robin, you want to hop on and share before we wrap up our cooking event today?
No, thank you. I want to make the sweet potatoes. Sweet potato tonight.
It's so good.
Thank you. So no, and anyone can visit our website, sandyovarian.org. Our contact information is on there, and we're happy to have you involved in our program. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And we are so glad to be partners with you. So I'm so thankful to have you. Again, a big thanks to our supporting sponsor, GSK, who is always just a big supporter of sharing awareness events, education events like these. So we are so thankful. And of course, we wouldn't be making all these delicious veggies without FarmBox RX. So thankful for them for supplying our veggies and just kind of getting us thinking in the season and creative in the kitchen. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. This will live on our Facebook page. I'm sure it will be on the Sandy Rollman's website. It will also be on the Unite for Her library. So for those of you that weren't able to hop on or had to hop off early, you can come back and watch it and maybe whip up these ingredients on their own. So Robin, if you make this, you have to show us pictures on what this looks like. We love food photos.
I will. I'll put them on Instagram.
I love that. Tag us. We love that. Love, love, love. Wonderful. Thank you everyone for being here. Have a wonderful last day of summer. Enjoy the first day of fall tomorrow. Stay safe, and hopefully we will see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.
And if everybody also would like to vote for Robin is in the BUL Philly Health Hero Challenge, I'm going to share the link if everybody would like to go and vote for her. So stay tuned. I'll share that in just a sec.
Oh my gosh, Aubrey, thank you so much for calling that out. Robin, voting. Like as soon as we hop off today, voting for you. Oh, wonderful. Yes, everybody go vote. Thank you for sharing that link. We love that.